Last week, I got my copy of Dope in the mail. And while I had been hearing many good things about this film since the summer of 2015, after viewing it for myself, I can honestly say this was one of the best movies of 2015. And it's a shame that your Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences pretty much ignored this film. Dope, as I believe it, should have been nominated not only for multiple NAACP Image Awards, but it should have been nominated for some Oscars as well. This is a well crafted film, and director Rick Famuyiwa did an amazing job on this film. Cinematography was very beautiful. It really captured the spirit and essence of Inglewood, California, and the Bottoms, and it really told a unique picture and a unique story about the black experience. Dope, as I see it, was a very creative film, a very artistic film, and it's one of, as I see it, one of the best black teen movies out there. I haven't seen a black teen movie this good since House Party back in the 90s and the movie Fresh that came out in the 90s. This movie, really reminded me of a lot of those two great films because in House Party we got the humor, and in Fresh we got to see a young man using his critical thinking and reasoning skills and manipulating people like a chessboard. And that's what we see in Dope. Now, Dope follows the story of Malcolm, a young black man from a single mother household who grew up in the Bottoms, part of Inglewood, California. And Malcolm isn't your typical, street guy. He's more of a nerd, and he's into things like manga, and he's into things like computers, and he's a part of a rock band with his two friends, Jib and Diggy, and they are trying to find a way to get out of the Bottoms. And Malcolm's goal is to go to Harvard. Malcolm, after running into a bully, what happens is he has a meeting with his guidance counselor. His guidance counselor tells him his essay on Ice Cube's "It Was a Good Day" just isn't good enough to get into Harvard. That it just doesn't tell enough story about him. It doesn't show enough of his life experience. And Malcolm retorts that, what do you want to hear? The old story about the guy with the sink from a single mother household? He says that's not good enough. He says, and what happens at this impasse is that he tells him to go meet with a Harvard alumni who runs a check cashing store in a neighborhood. And after the school day ends, what he does is he is about to get ready to go home, and he runs into a jam. And either he can go on the side of the street with the thug gang members or the side of the street with the dope dealers. So he decides to go on the side of the street with the dope dealers. And he runs into another one of the dope dealers. And from there, the guy tells him to go talk to this girl who was beautifully played by Zoe Kravitz, who I think channels her own mother, Lisa Bonet, in this performance in her Denise Huxtable days. And he goes over there and he gets invited to go to the dope dealer's birthday party. And from there, Malcolm goes on a journey that pretty much allows him to find out what his potential is, and learn, how to use his skills and how to learn different types of skills outside of the classroom. So he learns how to be creative, resourceful, how to make things work for him, and how to, in some ways, learn how to play people like a chessboard. And he learns that the game of life is chess, not checkers. That's why I say this film, reminded me so much of Fresh that came out in the 90s, because Malcolm has to learn how to work with people and how to use the people around him to get himself ahead and them not know it. So he learns, some valuable skills, and he learns, critical thinking, because when you look at the film, Dope, every person that he runs into is just like a piece on a chessboard. And that's what I really liked about this film. That it's very nuanced and it's very subtle. You have to really watch it, I believe, at least twice to really start picking up on little notes and little pieces and bits that really make the story come to life. Because this is a very, very, very unique film. In some ways, it really it is very creative. I'll say that it's very, very creative, and it requires a lot of critical thinking for you to watch it. And as you watch, Malcolm work things with his critical thinking and reasoning skills and work towards this goal, you see who he really is as a person, and you see him actualize his potential. And you see him grow into manhood, and you see him grow as a leader, because he has to find a way to accomplish what he wants to accomplish in spite of all the obstacles put in front of him. And what I really liked about this film is that there was no great white savior. You see Malcolm, working things out for himself, and he has to work, in spite of all the black people around him who are obstacles in his way. He has to find solutions that will help him overcome things. And he has to think things out. He has to analyze things. And he has to, really prove how creative and resourceful he truly is if he wants to achieve his goal of going to Harvard. This is as I see it, again, one of the best films of last year. And it was it was one of the best overall, because I look at the film in its overall perspective. Again, the camera work was great. The acting was spectacular. There were a whole host of great performances. Shamik Moore pretty much owned this film as Malcolm. I mean, he gave an amazing performance. And this film pretty much gave us a look into a picture of black life that we rarely ever get a glimpse of. And I was very happy to see, someone tell a story about a black experience that wasn't about the hood or gangs or thugs, and showing us that there are other people who grew up in the inner city like myself who weren't headed down that road, that there were other people out here who have different experiences and, come from a different perspective of life in the inner city. And that's something I really enjoyed about watching Dope. It was a great story that told a story of a different kind of life in the black community, because I really believe that we need to see those different shades and textures regarding the black experience. We need to see those different sides of being black. We need to see those other parts, because that's going to allow people to connect with black people and see that they're human, see that our experiences are not the same, that even though we come from the same neighborhoods in many cases, we are in many cases different people. And I look at what director Rick Famuyiwa was trying to do with Dope, and it reminded me a lot of what I wanted to do with the Smithsterella that I released last year. Now, when I wrote Smithsterella, I was trying to tell a story of an African American goth subculture, and show that there are African Americans who participate in other parts of culture and other parts of life, and that those people, they need to have their stories told. They need to be told, because we really need to see diversity when it comes down to stories regarding the African American experience. When it comes down to the African American experience, all we've been getting, as I see it for the last good 15, 16 years, is the same story. And I was just happy to see, the movie Dope tell another story, and, brilliantly use comedy in telling that story. I mean, this was a well executed film. The jokes were great. The storyline was great. And this is you have to watch this movie at least twice in order to get it. And that's another great part of it, because when I watch movies, I hate a movie that I only have to watch once. When you watch this one, you're going to have to watch it at least twice to really understand all the nuances and all the undertones and the overtones in it. And once you see all the undertones and overtones in it, you really are going to enjoy this movie. I can't recommend Dope any higher. This is one of the best black films I have seen in a long time. I'd say it ranks up there with the classics like House Party and Fresh and many other great black films. And if you really want to look at it in the spectrum of teen comedies, this one ranks up there with Fast Times of Ridgemont High, The Last American Virgin, and Clueless. It is one of the best teen movies ever made, and Rick Famuyiwa did an amazing job on this film, and I can't go out of my way to recommend it any higher. This is a 5-star recommendation for anybody who's read many of my old Amazon reviews. You have to go out and get this movie. Dope is dope, and you need to watch this movie.